Peace, audience. This is Adams Gerard, LA Ghetto Time News, Notes for the Mind. Notes for the Mind. Using common sense. Today we would like to deal with Genesis, the creation story. And was Adam in chapter 1 and in chapter 2. Was chapter 1 and chapter 2 a reflection, or was chapter 2 a separate group of people? Okay, that's what we're going to be dealing with. Was Satan living before Adam? Was Satan living before Adam? Genesis chapter 1 will be one of the main views that we will be discussing, right? Basically dealing with everything that he made was good. And so the question becomes, like in Matthew chapter 5, to heaven and earth pass, not one dot, one tittle, you know what I'm saying, will pass away. And so then when we deal with Revelations, where we're going to put on new bodies and there's going to be a new world and all that, the average person that is well trained in the scriptures, they basically know that's a metaphor. In actuality, nothing, the world is not going to be destroyed, blowed up, the sun gonna die, and a new light, and all of these things. We know that all these things are metaphors, right? And so when we're dealing with Genesis chapter 1, where we start from 9 to 13, where he's dealing the third day, land and sea. Here go the catch though, right here, right? Land and sea. And then we dealing with 14 through 19, dealing with the stars and the moons and the visible things in heaven. And then we get down to 20 to 23, animal life. And then 24, 25. And then we deal with the living creatures brought forth. And so when we dealing with the sun, moon, and the stars, this is catch 22, right? What did the stars, what kind of sins did the stars commit to where he would destroy the stars? What have the animals did to God where he would want to destroy the animals? What did the water do to God to make God want to destroy the water? So you catching my drift, right? And so just by that thought right there, which we're going to be getting into about also throwing in some references to Adam's curse, right? And so this Adam's curse, did it spread to the waters? Did it spread to the animals? Did it spread to the stars in heaven? Did it spread to the birds? Did it spread to these things? But in chapter 1, it says that what he made was good. And so we're going to be dealing with things like that, right? Okay, and so Genesis chapter 3 will show that Satan was already wicked before being more crafty, which is the more definition. The word more definition is greater, extra. And so basically it means that they both, and I'm gonna give you an example. Both of us have money, but you got a little more than me. But I got some money too, but you just got a little more than me. And so the serpent was more crafty than the other beast of the field. Wait a minute. We just read up in Genesis chapter 1 where he said, what I made is good. And so either wickedness was prior to Adam to make this statement in Genesis 3 of how Satan became more craftier, his heart was full of imaginary things. We have to figure out, where did he learn about these imaginary things when Adam was supposed to be the first human on earth, and before Adam sinned, there wasn't no wickedness on earth. But in chapter 3, Satan hasn't even met Adam yet, and he's more craftier than the other beasts of the field. More definition, the word more definition means we have money, both of us have money, but you got a little more than me. So according to chapter 3, these animals had a wicked side to them, right? But we say in modern times, do animals go to heaven? And the average Christian would tell you, oh yeah, they automatically go to heaven. What? How they automatically go to heaven when Satan was more craftier than the beast of the field? And so we're gonna be dealing with the beast of the field and all that, and we're gonna give examples of how that was a metaphorical term which they could use for humans, right? So when I look at Genesis chapter 1, 2, 3, anywhere where they talking about beasts of the field, creepy things and all of that, if you believe that the snake was a literal snake, then you believe that's basically spookism, right? Then you can go on the theory of there was no humans on earth and Adam and Eve was the only humans on earth. But if you consider that the serpent was a man, then the curses that was put upon Adam and his descendants would be a separate group from these serpite people, right? These serpentine people are what you consider these Adamite people, right? Because according to the scriptures, the snake is part of the creepy family. Serpent, creepy family. So he will be a descendant of the creepy things, right? In Genesis 1. And so these are things that we're going to be dealing with, right? I'm trying to go fast as I can. Let me see. So, more means both of us have money, but one has a little more. So one was more wickeder than the other one. Okay, but in Genesis chapter 1, everything he made was good, as I stated before. Okay, the timeline is key of identifying evil. Satan was on the earth before Adam. That's without a shadow of a doubt. According to the text, he was a snake, serpent, creepy thing, a descendant. This would prove the fallen angels were taught imaginary thoughts before chapter 6. Let's think about that right now. The in chapter 6 states that, basically paraphrasing, that man became wicked. Wickedness came into the earth. That's not true, because in Genesis 3, wickedness came into the earth. According to he was more subtle, more crafty than other beasts of the field. So and then that's not even true, because now we got to figure out, when did God plant the tree of wisdom and knowledge? See, that's the key. And I think Christianity loses focus on this right here. Again, because if you keep saying that the tree was a real tree, then you don't have to look upon Adamites. You don't have to try to figure out, was Satan a real person on earth? Who was his descendants? And going into this dissertation about that aspect of knowledge and history, right? And so we have to understand that them trees were the first imagination of the heart teachers. Ooh, the teachers. And how long were they in the Garden of Eden? Were they there from the foundations of the earth? Were they placed there after the Garden of Eden? Were they placed there at the same time as Adam? Because if they were placed there at the same time as Adam, then you can use chapter 1 where it says God made female in his image, and which I happen to believe, right? I believe that male and female, and we're going to show you through Strong's Concordance of the word male, where it's interchangeable as males with an S at the end, right? And so we're going to get these things done. And so now what I like to do, I like to just read from the scriptures, man. Just give some verses, man, to get some commentary on it. I mean, well, I just use commentary, but to get some facts, right? Okay. Okay. Let's deal with the living creatures, right? I'm gonna start at Genesis 1:25. And God made the beasts of the field and of the earth and its kind, and the cattle after their kind, and everything that creepeth on the earth after its kind. And God saw that it was good. Okay, let me go to 26. On the sixth day man created, giving dominion. And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the earth, fish in the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image. This is 27. And in the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. And so what I'm getting out of this is I'm getting war, because as I stated before, I don't believe in spookism, man. And so dominion means power. And so we have to think about things like, I mean, what kind of power is you talking about, right? I mean, like animals can't understand humans. This whole thing about animals can talk. Humans get in a sense, in a way, yeah, humans can communicate with animals, but it's not with verbal conversation, right? And so when this dominion right here is I mean, even when we dealing with jungles, right? Dominion don't mean that you're gonna be separating animals and you're gonna put lions with lions and you're gonna put tigers with tigers and all that. No, you're gonna leave the jungle just as it is. Okay, you got dominion, but what kind of what is the definition of the dominion that you're talking about? Actually separating animals? I mean domestication, I mean things of this nature like that. So this dominion is not a big thing, right? And so it's not a big thing towards animals and nature and things of this. So this dominion has to be a metaphorical term for dominion over kingdoms. Over kingdoms, replenish the earth. Okay, and let's get that. And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and to have dominion over the fish, sea, fowl, air, and every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Okay, and you know, it just goes on. And so let's jump to chapter 2, right? But let me go back up to chapter 31. Now remember, the serpent is from slithery, creepy things, right? If we're basing this off of Christian theology, right? The snake is a literal snake, right? So he's from the creepy family, right? And yeah, we could just go to 2, because I just want to show you 31. And on the 6th day, everything he made was good. Okay. Now, so, I mean, when we get to 2, we get to, of course, we get to the Sabbath day rest. Then we get to 7. And then we get to 7 and 8. Now, this is important right here. Chapter 2, 7 and 8. And the Lord, in the Lord, I don't like saying Lord, and the Most High formed man from the dust of the ground, breathed into his nostrils, and the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Lord planted a garden eastward of Eden, and there he put the man that he had formed. He put Adam in the garden. in the garden. So I mean, like, um, possibly he could have from the dust somewhere else in the Garden of Eden, right? Because that was basically what you would call the known world, right? God's world, you know what I'm saying? So that's not a major factor though, but he put him in the Garden of Eden, right? And when he put him in the Garden of Eden, let's move on. Give me a minute. Okay, I just wanted to jump. So now we go to 2 and 15. And the Lord took man and put him in the Garden of Eden to till and to keep it up. And the Lord commanded the man, saying, gave him a law, of every tree of the Garden of Eden thou mayest freely eat. But of the tree of knowledge and the tree of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. For in the day that thou shouldest eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. So as we see that these trees were in the garden before Adam was even there. Before he was there. The question becomes, what were these trees teaching, right? And so the proof is in the scriptures, when the scriptures tell you, but verse 17, but of the tree of knowledge and good and evil thou shalt not eat of it. Now you see good and evil. This would be a balance. This would just basically be knowledge of self, right? Knowledge of self coming into what you perceive as good, but it's not really good, because you know, good and evil is supposed to be two separate things. You know, that's a negative and a positive, but he's using them in the same verse as equating them to being both negative, right? So that's just like, you know, knowledge of self, knowledge of wisdom. What you think is good is not in actuality good. Okay. So I kind of want to speed it up. Let me speed it up a little bit more. So now we move to chapter 3. So now we know that these trees predate Adam, right? Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord had made. And he said unto the woman, ye have God said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the Garden of Eden. And the woman said unto him, serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the tree of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God has said, ye shall not eat. In the midst of the garden. That means, the midst means deep inside, or what you would say in the middle of the Garden of Eden. So this possibly wasn't in the East Garden of Eden, but this also lets you know that Adam and Eve, they were traveling all throughout the Garden of Eden, right? Okay, so let me speed it up. And so I want to go to the last point. And so just to show you that they had a conscience, and they knew what the garden, what the trees were capable of teaching people, right? And so this is dealing with laws. So through the fear, we're going to understand that they had a law system, and it wasn't just when he explains don't eat from them trees. It's imagination of the heart. This is very key. The trees were teaching the imagination of the heart. That means everything that a man can conjure up of wickedness in his mind, them trees was teaching. And so let's just go to 3 and 8. Genesis 3 and 8. And they heard the voice of the Most High walking in the Garden of Eden in the cool of the day, and Adam and Eve and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord among the trees of the garden. And the Lord called unto them and said unto them, where art excuse me, where art thou? And he said, I heard a voice in the garden, and I was afraid. What was he afraid of? What were they afraid of when they had no knowledge of what the trees represented? See, Adam and Eve, they knew that these people were some of the most wickedest people on the face of this planet. Because we're dealing with humans. We're not dealing with Christian theology about some trees. If you put this in human aspect, these people saw these people in a group, a city. Remember the trees are in the midst. It didn't say east of the Garden of Eden. It said in the midst. Could be in the midst of the east of the Garden of Eden, but there was still a separation, right? But most importantly, there were humans in the Garden of Eden? Huh? There were humans in the Garden of Eden. I thought Genesis chapter 1 supposed to be the first people on the earth was Adam and Eve. So we're dispelling the lies of Christianity. They don't understand the scriptures, right? And as I stated before, we're just going to let the scriptures do the talking. And we just going to go to Ezekiel and all that and just show you what the fowl and the beast and Job and show you the beast is a metaphorical term for humans, the fowl of the air and things of that nature right there. So these people were afraid because they knew the teachings of these trees and how demonic and all lustful and the imagination of the hearts that these people had. So let's see. And last but not least, because I don't want to give up too much, because we're gonna be doing the slides, and so we can just see it like that, right? And I'm gonna try to fly through these slides fast as I can. But one thing I want to tackle on is this chapter 5. This is the book of generations of Adam in the day that God created man in his likeness, and God made he him, male and female created he them, and he blessed them and called their name Adam. He said he called their name Adam. Their name in the day when they were created. So he called Eve Adam. He called Adam. And this is a quote from Genesis. This is a quote from Genesis chapter 1, where he male and female he created them. This is the same terminology right here. And then and Adam lived to 130 years old, and he begot a son in his own likeness and after his image, and he called his name Seth. Okay, so and so basically and so Christians would justify this and saying, okay, that's in chapter 1, so that is Adam and Eve. But the question still stands, where did Satan come from? And we know that he was put on earth before Adam. So you would have to equate Genesis chapter 1 to man and female as a plural. Because what did the Most High tell the serpent? He said, your seed shall be cursed. Now, is he talking about some literal snakes? Like when they have babies, they're going to be cursed to go back and slither on the ground? When he was a creepy thing and he was slithering already, according to Christian mythology, right? So God will curse the snake seed. I mean, what will be the curse of the snake? I mean, come on, man. What will be the curse of animals? Well, how are animals cursed? How are snakes cursed when God programmed and said it was good? The good is a definition of perfect, right? And so there's no fault in the creepy things, the beast, etc., etc. And so even in that Genesis chapter 1, man had to start being evil before chapter 3. And so we see why it says that the serpent was more crafty than the other beasts of the field, because wickedness was in the earth before Adam even went up in the garden. Now this cannot be spiritual wickedness, man. This everything has been taught. It just said that Adam had dominion. He naming the animals. He's the smartest person out of the birth of a nation. So he would be a teacher, right? And there's nothing in the scriptures that says that Adam veered off and started teaching wickedness and things of that nature. Eve is meeting up with the tree. She had no children. You see what I'm saying? Do y'all understand, audience? She had no children, so where did these trees, these men come from when she ain't had no kids yet? So now let's go around the scriptures, right? We're gonna stay in the scriptures, but let's go around of it. Meaning, let's put some common sense to it, right? Let's go around the scriptures. Let's go around the bubble, right? Okay. Princeton theologian. We conclude that the scriptures furnish no data for a chronological computation prior to the life of Abraham. The Mosaic records do not fix and were not intended to fix the precise date either of the flood or of the creation of the world. Now, this is vital to Christian doctrine. And the salvation of the world theory. But then they turn around, and then if you ask them, which the scriptures clearly show in Revelations 12:9, that serpent cast out into the earth, the deceiver of the whole world, which is which I would call a precept to Genesis 3:1-11, right? Because as they say, and then that's even off, because as I stated before, the trees, did they predate Satan, or were they a part of Satan's dominion, right? His army, right? And so there's no getting away from Satan being kicked out of heaven prior to the Garden of Eden, and I mean Adam being in the Garden of Eden. So that Satan was creeping around that Garden of Eden before Adam was there. That's facts, and they will admit that. But they will only admit that in an animal sense, not a human sense. So this is part of their doctrine that they have to uphold for Adam being, or Adam cursing the world. That's funny. More details. Cain then says to God, it's quite revealing. What Cain says to God is quite revealing. He tells God that he was worried of being killed by other people who would find him. Then God replies, therefore whoever kills Cain, vengeance will be taken on him sevenfold. God and Cain both implied that there were other humans besides Adam and Eve on earth. Man, my question is, how old is Satan? How old was Satan? Was Satan older than Adam? If he was here before Adam, he was older than Adam. Had an army. He subdued the beast. He had them. A snake subduing cows. The beast world. When God created the beast to eat meat, he created beasts to growl and with vigor, and you know, the predator world, man, you know, it's good to him. It wasn't nothing bad. It was good. He made them exactly how he wanted them to operate on his in his world, right? So, where did Cain get his wife from when they were the only two people that Adam and Eve had? Where did he get his wife from? And not only did he snatch him up some wives, right? But he also built a city. Now you're going to build a city for what? 5 wives? 15 wives? When the scriptures don't even say that Adam had a daughter. So these are things that just let you know that there had to be other people on earth besides just Adam and Eve. So, okay, Adam is not the father of all. If you think Adam was the creator of all life, then you don't believe that the people before Adam survived the flood. This is another Christian trick that Adam curse was given to all men. But if the pre-Adamites did survive the flood, then this would make their claim obsolete, and his cursed seed only to be Israel. One seed, separate from this other group of people. This curse is not a spiritual but a physical one. Chapter 3 explains going to the east of the Garden of Eden, removed from the promised land, physically, not spiritually. The people living in the city of Nod, modern day, let's say Mesopotamia, people predate Adam's timeline. Because where did he get his wife from? When the Bible does not say that he had a daughter. And then Christianity going to the whole incest thing, and that's just totally disrespectful, because as I stated before, this imagination of the heart that these trees carried of evil, good, and knowledge that they carry, this would consist of an evil thought of incest. So these people would be doing incest back then. And then let me show you that Cain had fear. So I show you through Adam and Eve that they had fear. They feared when they saw the Most High, because they understood the attributes of following that tree. Now let me show you how Cain knew about laws, because Christians sit there and tell you that they only had after Adam sinned, and they were only given a couple of laws, right? Few laws, right? So let me show you how that imagination of the heart was thriving, and man understood more than just the commands that was given to Adam, right? So let me read Genesis 4, and let me start at 9. And the Lord said unto Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. He said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, what thou hast done. And the voice of thy brother blood cry unto me from the ground. And so Cain straight lied to the Most High. He straight lied. You know why he lied? Because he understood what having an imaginary heart was. He understood further. He was more in depth of what God command man not to do. Right? And then we can just simply think about that there wasn't no law of murder. Wasn't no law of murder. This is the first murder ever recorded in history. And God never gave no provision and said don't kill. See? But when he lied, he knew that there was a law not to kill. That's why he lied in the first place. And so to prove that wickedness was spread throughout the land before Cain did what he did, right? Okay. Cain was scared. The Most High said, where my brother at? Where your brother at? He lied and say, I don't know. That's an indication that he knew of commandments. And now he pleads with the Most High, and he tells the Most High, man, I'm be a vagabond and a fugitive, and they will kill me. And then the Most High say, whoever touch you, something gonna happen to them, right? So after that, the guy takes his wife and commits incest. It don't make no sense. And so then after that, Cain, living in the city of Nod, did he conform back to wickedness? Because chapter 4, let's start at 16 through 24, is the genealogy of Cain's, what you would call descendants, right? And so then when we get to chapter 6, then we get that, and there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men and bore children of them, the same became mighty men of old and renown. Verse 5, and God saw the wicked of man was great in the earth. Now you see that man right there? You see that man is plural right there. You see the man, and man was great in the earth, and they that every imagination of their thoughts in their hearts was only evil, and it repented to the Lord that he had made man of the earth. So we see this man being plural, and Cain went back on his word, right? Cain must have went back on his word, right? But if Cain didn't go back on his word, then that means he grabbed his wife from another nation, and there was wickedness already around in that other nation that he went to. It's simple. It's simple, right? And also when we're dealing with the sons of God and all that, we know metaphorically, and even Christians know this, everybody know this, that them sons of God was the army of Satan, of the serpent. We know that's the serpent's seed. We know this. And so again, man, just proving that, man, wickedness existed all the way in chapter 1. Now I hope y'all can see the context. Keep doing this. I'll leave it alone. So, you know, just food for thought right there, man. You know, so you can look at it for a minute. I want to move on. Okay. Adam is not the father of everybody. The two lines. Why didn't Adam replenish the world? It doesn't say Adam replenished the world. It only says in chapter 1, doesn't say it in chapter 2. Because the Adamites were still living. Genesis chapter 5, the generations of Adam in the day God created man, when they were created. That's Genesis chapter 1. Christians say that Adam's kids had babies by each other, but Satan proves that they weren't the only ones in the Garden of Eden. Christianity says gaining knowledge was a death penalty, but Cain killed Abel and he ain't get the death penalty. So why gaining knowledge was a death sin, right? All it was is that he was going to get kicked out of the Garden of Eden. Less herbs, less spices, and we already know food is the key to life, right? That's simple right there. When Adam was 140 years old, Cain was about 20 years old, out of the Garden of Eden. Couldn't possibly have no grandkids, nothing nowhere. They think they didn't have a law of incest. That was the serpent's teaching. The details are given in chapter 6 and 5. Every imagination thought. This is why God replenished it the first time, because wickedness was in before the replenishing. Noah was ordered to do the same thing. Bring back the laws against incest. We have to understand what these trees was teaching. You know what I'm saying? How can Cain feel guilty of breaking the commandment? Why would he later on marry his sister? This proves that there were other people living in the Garden of Eden, outside and in the land of Nod. Adam is not the father of everybody. Okay. Adam is not the father of everybody. Adam's curse. If you believe that people are not going to be eating physically in the new world, you believe in spookism. And I just want to show you that food is the key to living. Adam was kicked out, therefore being malnourished, even though they say he lived that span of time. If he was in the Garden of Eden, he would have lived longer, right? And I don't believe that man lived forever. That the beginning Genesis, like man lived forever. No, I do not believe that right there, man. A long time, yeah. Forever, nah, man. Come on, man. So as you continue to have babies and you live forever and ever and ever and ever, and then they live forever and ever and ever, by the time we in 2018, I mean, man, we'll be squished like sardines in a can, man. Come on, man. That's crazy, man. Man has to go, right? Okay, so if you believe in that, so if you don't believe that they was eating, you believe in spookism. When prophecy shows physical sacrifice, Genesis 3:17 and 24 shows what was the curse, the land from eating healthy, good things to make you live longer. You know, a state of foul foods. Mount Zion is the Garden of Eden. See, so that's so if you understand through the scriptures, you understand that the Garden of Eden is Mount Zion. The curse is not that every man is born cursed. That is an apostolic doctrine. And Matthew 5 and 48 says to be perfect as God. And Matthew 18, 1 through 8, be as children again. That shows you that children are not born cursed. I don't know why people keep saying this stuff. The curse is not something you're born with, but born into, not with. When we eat healthy, we live longer. I don't want to deal with that one. Let's see. And so let's deal with apologetics, right? Christian defenders, exegesis. This is their commentary. This is them explaining earth not in sinning after Adamite times. And so basically they're going to give you apologetics are going to give you a breakdown of how many children, how many great grandchildren in the timeline from Genesis 2 to let's see, 11, of how this burst of humanity doesn't fit with the narrative, right? And it show doesn't fit with the narrative of God saying he's gonna destroy, flood the whole earth. I mean, if you looking at a time frame from Adam to Noah, all them generations would fill up like Mesopotamia and Africa. You know, like you would have millions of people living in a area, right? But we talking about the whole world. Why would God want to flood the whole earth when there wasn't enough people produced in these chapters combined to be living on the other side of the earth? The earth is big, man. We talking about billions of trillions of billions of people that's living on earth right now. It's a lot of people living on earth right now. And so and also that's dealing with this sin. Like this sin went from went from Cain, and then Babylon, and then Assyrians and all of that, and man, that still doesn't constitute, man, a worldwide sin throughout the whole world, man. So again, this sin had to predate the first man. And chapter 1 is plural. God created man and female, boom, everywhere all over the earth. And then people took on their identities after that right there. It's simple. Okay. Fugitive, vagabond. Let's go down right here. Okay, now, before answering the question, we must keep in mind that Genesis chapter 1 through 11 covers approximately 2,000 years. What? Let's just go down. What's more interesting, Genesis chapter 4 and 5 likely covers a period of 1,400 years. Thus, a lot of time can pass between events without the text specifically expressing exactly how many decades or centuries elapsed. Right? Now, let's go right here. Just want to give y'all something real quick. Let me see. Move that up. My finger. Okay. Again, we cannot know exactly how much time transpired between expired between Cain had with Abel and the day that he actually murdered Abel. I can't think of the word right now. It's on the tip of my tongue. The fact is, Cain would have been 100 years old or more by the time he killed his brother. And these are the only two children. 100 years old. Keep in mind that since the patriarchs often lived to be several hundred years old, Adam died at the age of 930. Being 100 in that day was somewhat comparable to being 20 today. Adam and Eve may have had 50 children or more by the time Cain killed Abel. Now they say they probably had 50 children by the time they killed Cain and Abel. In Genesis 5 and 4. They may have had 300 grandchildren by them. Wait, only 300 grandchildren? And they want to tell you Enoch took one of them, took some of his sisters, maybe took some of his grandchildren. There could have been 3 or 4 generations of Adam's descendants on earth by the time God sentenced Cain to be a fugitive and a vagabond. From exegesis, they are telling you that there's no way, there's not enough people around so if we was to look at this narrative right here, first 100 years he had 50 children. Let's times 50 times 139. It still doesn't add up to a worldwide flood. So this is exegesis right here. You know what I'm saying? So again, for it to be a worldwide flood, there had to be millions and millions and millions of people on earth, and Adam and his grandchildren and grandchildren, all of them combined, can't make up a million. It can't get to a million. So this worldwide flood, as real scholars know, that it wasn't a worldwide flood. We put the flood in a 10,000 year period when the glaciers were actually melting, remigrations. We can see skulls, we can see people living through the ice age, etc., etc. That's debunkable, right? So let's debunk, man, Adam eating unclean animals, right? Let's get some EPA and all that stuff, right? Let's get that. And that one brings me to man, even though he would be cursed, let's deal with the dominion thing, man. Dominion, you know, king over the earth, ruler, dominion. You know what I'm saying? You can't tell an animal right now move to the side, and animal just understand what you say, right? So we have to define that, what that word dominion is, right? And so let's think about it like this. Adam had dominion. People like to say that Adam talked to the animals and all of these things like that. We have to understand, I don't care if you curse, traditions are carried, passed down through generation. I don't care how much you curse. Adam will be teaching his sons how to talk monkey talk, because we talking about dominion, where Adam can tell the animal move to the side and the animal move to the side, you know, because they say the dominion was over the animal kingdom, right? It's over the human kingdom, not an animal kingdom, because only people that can understand you is some humans. And so if Adam knew how to speak monkey, he would have told Seth how to speak monkey, so forth and so on. Noah would have knew how to speak monkey and all that, right? Okay, so I want to talk about the unclean animals. Um, as we know, as far as the scriptures, it say eat the herb of the field, and then we get into commentary about how Adam could eat any animal that was around. You know, pigs, swine, EPA animals that can give you kidney damage, and all of these things right here. And all of this is on skepticism, right? Because they don't understand what the meat of the meat of the herb is, the seed of the herb, and the seed just mean the young animals of the field, the young ones, not the elderly, not the older animals, which was used in Levitical laws, right? You eat the young, you kill the young one. You don't eat the grown one and the old one and all that stuff. That's old meat. So so I want to talk to you about traditions. As I was stating before, Adam would have passed down the monkey talk, the donkey talk, knowing how to talk to a cow, snake, lizard. Yeah, hey man, he got dominion. I mean, he the king. I mean, and he's supposed to be, and it's supposed to be wildlife that he's controlling because ain't no humans around, right? Ain't no humans around, so these all animals. So he's speaking monkey and all that stuff, right? But what I want to show you is traditions, right? And where do these things come from? Because we know wickedness comes from the trees. And so let me see right here. We deal with Genesis 3 and 7. And dispensationalists call this a dispensation, which basically means that God always worked with man during the evolution of man. And then this is the point that they bring out, that God never had the dietary laws in his mind. Like the laws that he gave Moses, these wasn't pre foundation foundational attributes from the beginning of the world. And so basically God just thought of this because he was coping with man, and so now he came out with laws. But he let Adam eat anything he want to eat, right? According to scriptures, right? So in 7, it say, and both of them, and their eyes of them both were open, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together. And basically, I just want to, that's just an example just to give you about, she knew how to sew. This sewing doesn't come from nowhere. It comes from being taught, groomed how to sew. And don't state nowhere else that she was sewing. Matter of fact, it tell you that she was naked. What would she be sewing for when they was in the Garden of Eden walking around naked? Answer that one, Christians. That's one for you right there, right? Okay? And so now we go to 4. They would like to tell you that after Adam's curse, there were given sacrifices were introduced, right? And so starting at 20, I'm not going to read it, but from 20 to 24, God's provision of sacrifice, right? And go to 21. And Adam also, and for his wife, did the Lord God make coats of skin and clothe them. She already knew how to sew, right? I mean, you know, some people would say this is spiritual coats of skin, and this would make them a priestlyhood. And so on top of that, Adam was forgiven. They were forgiven because they got new cloaks of skin, and they were back into the spirituality, back one with God, right? And then he say, behold, the man has become one of us to know good and evil, and to know less. He put forth his hand and take also up the tree of life and eat and live forever. Now we have to understand that when the Most High was in the Garden of Eden, he came to them and he asked them what they did. How did they feel? They felt guilty. So right here is not talking about that man has become one of us, because he already knew before he or entered into his wife's domain of messing with these trees, they knew beforehand not to go to these trees. So Adam was like God. He knew the difference between good and evil. This is not when he learned the difference between good and evil after. See what I'm saying? But the hit home on it real fast. Chapter 4 verse 2. And she again bore his brother Abel, and Abel was a keeper of sheep, and Cain was a tiller of the field. My question to y'all is, why did Abel herd sheep? Why not pigs? Why not donkeys? Why not this? Why not that? Why not this? Why not that? Why is he herding these other animals? And the second question is that, what was he doing with these sheep? These sheep were just for sacrifices? No, they don't. No. These were just for sacrifices. But these sacrifices, they don't say sheep are for sacrifice up in here. It don't say the sheep. Who knows what animals they was putting up there, right? And so, again, it's all about proving the animal kingdom, and even proving in this situation that they were still eating the herb of the field, because after this, it still doesn't say that from a vegetable life to a beef life. It's not stating right here, now you can eat meat, now you can do this, now you can eat meat. And if they were eating these sheep, Abel knew how to cut. That means they had knives. What do you have knives for when you just eating vegetables? You see what I'm saying? I mean, you would have cutting vegetable knives, but when we dealing with sheep, you know, you need blades and all that. Where would they learn how to be making these blades? Where did they get these blades from? Out of nowhere, out of coincidence? So these are things, man, we got to think about when we dealing with these scriptures, man. And so EPA has found clean and unclean. Mercury EPA has found to cause kidney damage. And so that's why we have Leviticus, right? And so my thing is basically that either some type of mechanism change had to happen up in humans or species, because there's nowhere in the world that this man could just be eating anything on the face of this planet and living to 930 years old, right? When EPA has found to cause kidney damage, that's crabs, seafood, mercury, all of these things. We're going to show you rabbit disease. We're going to show you animal diseases that and the funny thing about it is when we go generically, DNA wise, right? Haplogroups, mutations and things of this nature right here. Again, we have to ask ourselves, how long was it when Adam was on earth? Because if you say 6,000 BCE, that's a dagger right there, because far as mutations tell you that these animals been having these same bacteria and all that stuff ever since further back then. They can find these mutations of these deadly diseases, right? So I mean, man, so if you want to use that timeline 6,000 BCE, that's ugly right there. So this would prove from them living 900, 700 years old and things of that nature that they had to be eating good. So all that foul animal stuff, it's baloney. So now let's deal with the metaphorical standpoint, right? Let's get back to them trees, right? Because these trees predate Adam. They were there before Adam. The serpent is a descendant from these entities, these trees, right? We just gonna go with the Christian commentary, right? Okay, so we want to show an illusion, right? So basically, this is using the serpent in Genesis for Tyre, showing the wickedness in Genesis, right? So the lamentations upon Tyre, prophecies, things of that nature. And so the precept is 3:14 to 15, right? And so basically, what is showing is that Tyre was symbolic of Satan in the Garden of Eden. The ways, they act the same, they do the same thing, they got the same attributes. Imagination of the heart, right? And so let's get into it. Thou hast been in the garden of God. Very precious stone was thy covering, topaz, diamond, etc., etc., right? Let's just jump to verse 14. Thou art the anointed cherubim that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou was upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stone of fire. The trees were in the midst of the Garden of Eden. This is showing you what Satan was in the Garden of Eden and how he fell. 15. Thou was perfect in thy ways from the day that thou was created, till iniquity was found in thee. And then it goes on to say, I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Thy heart was lifted up because of thy beauty, and thy beauty thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee into the ground. I will lay thee before kings, that they may behold thee. Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thy iniquities. This is giving you a description of Satan in the Garden of Eden. So he was a descendant, a member of the trees that were in the midst that they wasn't supposed to be messing with. It's simple, man. And so through the scriptures, we showing you that this serpent, that old serpent, from the foundations of the earth. What? So now let's deal with the cedar tree, right? And so again, we in Ezekiel 31. Let me just get to verse 2. Son of man, speaking to the Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his multitude, whom art thou like in thy greatness? Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon, with 4 branches, and with a shadow and shroud, and of a high stature, and its top was amongst the thick broths, right? And so it's going to go down, and we're going to explain how these trees in the Garden of Eden represented nations and people. So let's skip down. Let's go to 5, verse 5. Therefore, its height was exalted above all the other trees of the field, and its broths were multiplied, and its branches became long because of the multitude of waters when it shoot forth. Verse 6. And all the fowls of the heavens made their nests in its broths, and under its branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under its shadow dwelt all great nations. And so the beasts from the field brung their young, and under its shadow dwelt all great nations. The beasts are nations. Okay. Verse 8. The cedars in the Garden of Eden, the cedars in the Garden of God could not hide it. The fair trees were not like its broths, and the chestnut trees were not like its branches, nor was any tree in the Garden of God like unto it in its beauty. Verse 9, I have made it fair by the multitude of branches, so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden of God envied it. There you go right there, right? There you go right there, right? But let's continue though. Let me see. And so I want to go down to verse 18. So basically he telling that Assyria will be destroyed, right? And so going to verse 18. To whom art thou thus like in glory and in the greatness among the trees of Eden? Yet shall be brought down with the trees of Eden. So I just want to let y'all, I want to show y'all that the trees are symbolic metaphors of nations, humans, right? But let's go forth. So okay, so let's deal with flocks and beasts, right? And let's just break this down right now. Isaiah 56:9. All you beasts of the field, all you beasts of the forest, come to eat. Now 56. This is talking about third temple and all that, right? So telling the beast to come eat and all that. Man, the beast ain't gonna be looking at. See, we have to understand these animals. All of this stuff gonna happen. Animals don't think, man. You can be in war. Animals will still be hunting and they will still sleep and they don't think, man. They don't think about this stuff. Remember, we don't talk to animals. Come over here and eat of the sacrifice, right? Ezekiel 39:17 and 20. As for you, son of man, thus say the Lord God, speak to every kind of bird and to every beast of the field, assemble and come together from every side to my sacrifice, which I am going to sacrifice to you. The birds and the beasts of the field, I'm going to give sacrifice to you. These are not animals, man. There's a great sacrifice on the mountain of Israel, that you may eat flesh and drink blood. So you will eat fat until you are glutted, and drink blood until you are drunk. My sacrifice which I have sacrificed for you, you will be glutton at my table with horses and chariots, with mighty men and all the men of war, declares the Most High. Ezekiel 34:8. As I live, declare the Most High, surely because my flock has become prey. My flock has even become food for all the beasts of the field, for lacking of a shepherd. My shepherd did not stretch forth my flock, but rather the shepherd fled themselves and did not feed my flock. Okay, Israel is being spoken as sheep, and they are being murdered by the beast of the field. This beast of the field that's in Genesis. Ezekiel 34:5. They were scattered for a lack of a shepherd, and they became food for every beast of the field that was scattered. Ezekiel 34:28. They will no longer be prey to the. Here we go. They will no longer be prey to the nations and the beast of the earth that will devour them, but they will live sacredly, and no more will make them afraid. So man lived before Adam. So let's look at it in this aspect right here. Genesis 2:15. When you think about it, it makes sense, right? Let me get it. Let me show y'all this connection right here, right? And it say, this is 2:15, Genesis chapter 2, verse 15. And the Most High took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to till and to keep it. Now this word "keep it" right here, attain, being careful, beware, and use, if I ain't mistaken, one time. excuse me, peeps, to bodyguard it. Even though it's one instance, right? But this bodyguard aspect, if he was bodyguarding it, being careful with it, and remember this is land, dominion over the beasts of the field, keep up the Garden of Eden. These are all symbolic of stand with God's plan of being a good person, right? Now, if he's to attain this perfect walk, to know that you have to walk perfect is to know that there's something out there that can teach you. I mean, something out there that's teaching people not to walk perfect. If there wasn't nothing teaching you how to walk perfect, something going against being perfect, how would you know what perfect is? You got to look at negativity to know how to be righteous. It's a balance. It goes hand in hand. Satan, wickedness was on earth before Adam. So let's get the context right here. We got Genesis 3 and 14. Above every beast of the field. Here go the Strongs. H2416. Child cursed above the beast. Living. That's what it means, living. Now we dealing with the brothers that put Joseph in a pit. Excuse me for miss typo right there. Genesis 37 and 20. Now I'm going to show you how beast, same Strong's word, is used in Genesis 37 and 20. Same that's used in Genesis 3 and 14. Proving that the beast are representations of humans, right? As we just saw up in Ezekiel. Now come, therefore, let us slay him and cast him into the pit, and we will say, some evil beast has devoured him. Man, stop. Now, as we compare this to the beast that's in Ezekiel, right? The birds and beasts of all kinds represent nations. Let me see. And then we get in Daniel 7 and 23. The Greek is called a beast. So, I mean, we got clear indications in the scriptures to where these beasts and these foul and these creepy things and all of these things can be representations of humans. So for you to sit here and say that them beasts and foul and all that was in Genesis 1 and 2, if I'm not 1, 2 and 3, for you to say that they weren't humans, is easily as I can say that these beasts were humans, because we getting the Strong's definition, and we getting it in Ezekiel, and we getting it up in Genesis, and they're saying human. There is used as human, and they're used as beasts. So we can't pinpoint and just sit here and say that the beast up in Genesis 1, we talking about all animals. And then when we get to Ezekiel, man, we talking about some humans. And it's all about the context and all that. No, he talking about cedar trees. He talking about wild beasts chasing humans and things of that nature. He's talking about some humans. Beast of men. Men are beasts. And this is the problem right here. It's the image, man. This is the problem. Cro-Magnon man, the new man. You know how they do, man. They don't want you to know about a certain point in time in history. They don't want you to go back further. it would complicate things, right? The problem, Christians believe in spookism and the European perspective of Adam, and just look at the color of Adam to understand what I'm talking about. It's an agenda. It's commentary. Now, on the level of this Neolithic period, right? I mean, like, come on, man, from 20,000 to 10,000 to 8,000 to 6,000 BC. I mean, what timeline are you putting the Garden of Eden in? Because if you put in it in any one of these dates, we got humans out here, man, and there's a non-breakage of human anatomy. There's a non-breakage of haplogroups in DNA. These are the same people. There's no break, right? So let's see where it comes from, right? Original sin. Original sin, called ancestral sin, is a Christian belief of the state of sin in which humanity has been captive since the fall of man, stemming from Adam's and Eve's rebellion in Eden, right? The concept of original sin was first alluded to in the 2nd century by your father, Irenaeus, bishop. That bishop there for a minute. I mean, for a reason. So this is where the doctrine comes from. Not understanding or not giving a dissertation about, well, the trees. Were the trees before Adam? These trees, did these trees observe every imagination of the heart? When was Satan cast down? After Adam? Before Adam? Genesis 6? When? Right? Let's get some more attributes, right? The beast signifies man affections, evil affections with the evil, and good affections with the good. It's evident from numerous passages in the word, as in Ezekiel, right? We already read Ezekiel, right? Let's do Joel right here. Be not afraid, ye beasts of my field, for the dwelling places of the wickedness are become grassy. Psalm 73 and 22. So foolish was I was as a beast before thee. Jeremiah. Behold, the days come, say Jehovah, that I will sow the house of Israel and the house of Judah with the seed of man and with the seed of the beast, and I will watch over them to build and to plant. Okay. And then we get Hosea 2 and 18. In that day I will make a covenant for all them with the wild animals. I mean, with the wild animal of the field, and with the fowl of the heavens, and with the creepy things of the earth. Come on, man. Come on, man. And so we're showing that you can use this word for humans. These are attributes that we still call humans to this day. A beastly man, a rat, a snake. These are metaphors that are still being used to describe humans. And just to top it all off, man, we know in Revelations, man, this beast is not a real beast, man. We know it's the beast system. We know there's humans governing this beast system. Come on, man. So what we're dealing with? We're dealing with doctrine that grew over time. In the biblical excuse me, in the biblical author's world and that of his or her audience for many centuries afterward, there were no apples, no devils, and no original sin. In the early stages of the textual development, before the text became canonized and officified, changes in belief changed the text. These interpretations shifted over time. You got to be careful. So, let's go into changed doctrines, right? How doctrine changed. How we get from the book, the earlier manuscripts, telling you nothing about no apple, snakes crawling, and all of these things right here. This is developmental, right? And so by the time of Augustine of Hippo in the 4th century, the story of Adam and Eve had become the story of the fall from grace that could only be redeemed by the coming Yeshua. Now these are doctrinal developments, man. You have to understand this. Because in the Old Testament, you can be forgiven for your sins if you're in a foreign land, or if you're in your land and you poor and you can't give up and you ain't got no money to buy no sheep and all of that stuff. You can give up what you got in your house: food, tithing, incense at a point in time, different ways, right? Only you can die for only you can die for your sin. That was basically the message in the Old Testament, man. I don't know where they getting this stuff from, right? Can't no man die for your sins, bro. The doctrine of original sin was first developed in the 2nd century by your father Augustine took his argument further, arguing that Adam's sin is transmitted by hurtful desires. Thus, original sin, according to Augustine, consists of guilt of Adam and all human inheritance. As sinners, humans are utterly deprived in nature, lack the freedom to do good, and cannot respond to the will of God without divine grace. That wasn't nothing but get rid of the laws. That's all that was. These are the same people that reject the Old Testament, right? There's a New Testament, right? That's why they developed that, right? Somebody separated the books, right? Clever interpretations, reading the story in Latin and understanding the forbidden fruit as a source of evil, naturally concluded that it must have been an apple. The Latin people did that. Not only did this influence medieval artists to portray Adam and Eve in front of an apple tree, but Linux has since been referred to as an Adam's apple, right? And so this is the development of something that you straight hold near and dear to your heart. I mean, you walking around here right now and you like, it was a real apple. They were talking to real animals. Adam was commanding a dominion over all animals. Wasn't no humans around. Satan was a spirit walking around, but he can talk to humans. And the trees had some change your whole spirit enzymes in them. I don't get it. I just don't get it. And please, man, I just want y'all to do a little research, man. James Ussher and his chronology, man, please, it's ridiculous. But if you hold up to this date, you are in serious trouble, my friend, because there were people on earth. So, I mean, just let it all out, right? I mean, like, man, okay. The real apple tree concept. This was to hide the fact that Adam's sin was only to his people. In Christian theology, consuming the fruit of the tree of knowledge and good and evil was the sin committed by Adam and Eve that led to the fall of man. In Catholicism, Augustine of Hippo taught that the tree should be understood both symbolically and as a real tree, similar to Jerusalem being both a real city and a figure of heavenly Jerusalem. You hear that right there? And he's a Catholic, right? But you Christians believe in the same thing that he believed in, and he's a bishop. He's a Catholic. He's a bishop. You believe in the same thing he believed in. In Western Christian art, the fruit of the tree is commonly depicted as an apple, right? Which was originated in Central Asia, right? Ooh, gotta throw this back out here, right here, right? So, just showing you this disease caused by a species of we call them ringworms, round worms called, I'm not going to even try to pronounce that, found in animals that eat meat. These are found in animals that eat meat, such as pigs, bears, foxes, walruses, wild boars. I don't know. I mean, like, as I stated before, God changed the enzymes in the pigs, or he changed the enzymes in Adam to make them live long, and he can eat this stuff all day. And trust me, these pigs, you know, they will eat vegetables, corns, and all that. You can feed a pig, you can give a pig a vegetable diet, and you still will catch something off that pig. So, that whole story about Adam eating anything, that's a lie, man. It just doesn't matches up with common sense. Live long, eat anything you want. It just don't make sense. And so, just to give you some more on this disease right here, right? And so you can look at the picture. It's in bugs. It's carried to rabbits. It go to pigs. It's in animals. Hey man, you got to be careful what you eating out here, right? They tell you long as you cook it good, you can eat it. Come on, man, that's crazy, man. So, and plus these mutations right here, right? These mutations, right? How far does this mutation or this bacterium go back? And I bet you I can put it past 6,000 BC. I bet you I can put it back there. I bet you I can bring it back. You know, it ain't start 6,000 years ago, right? Okay, so I want to read something to y'all, right? Nowhere in Greek does the word youth mean baby. Proverbs 2:15. Foolish is bound up in the heart of the child. Genesis 8:21 declares the intent of a man's heart is evil from his youth. Jonathan Edwards, in his classical work, The Great Christian Doctrine of Original Sin Defended, remarks on this verse. The word translated youth signifies the whole of the former part of the age of a man, which commences from the beginning of life. The word in its derivation has references to the birth of the beginning or existence, so that the word here translated youth comprehends not only what we in English most commonly call the time of youth, but also a childhood of infancy. Now, humanity is often described in general Excuse me. Okay, so as we go down, humanity is often described in general terms as unrighteous. Unrighteousness is often spoken in the scriptures as something belonging to the human race as a whole. This implies that it is properly of our species. In other words, sinfulness is considered a property of human nature after the fall. Thus, it may be concluded that we are all born sinners, since we are all born human, and sin is regarded as the property of humanity. In this vein, considered in Ephesians 2:1 and 3. Now, if we are to go by the most clearest understanding spoken by somebody in the Bible, right? If we go to Yeshua, who was perfect in the law, right? He says in Matthew 18:1 and 6 to become as children, not babies. You have to come children, not babies. He didn't say babies. Children are not babies. This is what. So when we go back right here, and of course, yeah, you will find. Behold, I was brought forth in iniquity, and in the sin of my mother conceived me. Say that all the people who are not in Christ are the sons of disobedience. Right? That's in Ephesians, right? And so we get cases where we see that, and then Ephesians 2 and 3 also establish this, saying that we are all by nature children of wrath, not babies by wrath. See, this is a commentary that stuck. That's why he's telling you right now, as we use it in, it says right here, so that the word here translated youth comprehends not only to what we in English most commonly call the time of youth, but also a child and infancy. That's not what a youth mean. That's not what a child mean. It doesn't mean a baby. It doesn't mean a infant. It doesn't mean born out the womb full of sin. Unrighteousness is spoken as something belonging to a human race as a whole. You are born into sin. You are not born with sin. So we got to understand that one right there, audience. So, and this is pertaining to Adam's curse, right? And basically showing you the curse belongs to Adam's seed line. It doesn't belong to the serpent seed line, which was living at the same time, born at the same time of Adam, pre-existed Adam. And this original sin is a doctrine to justify the claim of no humans on earth, spiritual Satan. Humanity started with Adam and Eve, right? And basically, to me, it's like they know that they the serpent seed, and they just don't want to acknowledge their descendants. You know what I'm saying? That's how I basically see it. Christians justify civilizations and blame God for babies dying, saying they have sinned. If Christians believe they died and go to heaven, how can the baby be pre-curse when you only died once? That would mean the baby has to be reincarnated to be put to death, because we got the death sin, but the baby ain't even see no life to be dead. So that means the baby will have to come back to feel death. Christians birth stillborn babies? I say, Christians, did Eve birth stillborn babies? That's a no. Why? Because of the civilization of health, right? And so, let's go right here. Death, both physical and spiritual, is a result of sin. Thus, death only comes upon those who have sinned. Since infants die, they therefore must be sinners. It could be objected that Christ was sinless. That means Jesus was born into sin. He was born with a wicked streak up in him. But it said Jesus was born sinless, because they say he had no father. And yet he died. But he willingly gave up his life, and he did it to conquer the curse of death that we were under, right? If humanity is born in sin, wouldn't we expect there to be some people who have beaten the odds and never sinned? So they try to so were there perfect men on earth? We can see this all through the scriptures, that there were perfect men. The disciples, Jesus and John's father. When you hear the word devout, it means God's followers, saints, living perfectly. So that refutes the whole original sin thing, right? And so original sin is not being born with sin, but it's a social thing. The best explanation is that we are sinners by nature. Someone might argue that the reason all people sin is because society is sinful, and thus society renders it impossible for anyone to keep themselves entirely pure. But that only pushes the questions back to step one. How did society get sinful in the first place? If people are born morally good, then how did it come about that they congregated into societies that influence all people to sin? That's the whole point. You're not born with it. It comes to you after you're born. So youth does not mean child, and youth does not mean born. That's the point I'm trying to convey to you guys, man. Let's get some understanding, man. And so, in closing, let's go right back to Revelations 12, and let's go back to 7, right? And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, who deceived the whole world. He was cast into the earth. Now, Satan was only in heaven one time in his story. He got cast down in Genesis, right? The foundations of the world, right? When the Garden of Eden was made, before the Garden of Eden. Hey, you tell me. It don't matter what time you talking about. It's before Adam was born. The trees were there before Adam was born. These were people. The beasts, the fowl, the cedar trees. These were representations of nations and people. And man, I just thank y'all for watching the video, man. I hope we got some clarity around here, man. And want to give a big shout out to the man upstairs. Peace to all my peeps out there. Audience, stay strong. Take care of your families.